is the world you are graduating into? This is what I want to talk about today with you for a few minutes. To lead in shaping a new world order for the 21st century.
The end justifies the means is a phrase that is very popular. It's a somewhat Machiavellian phrase, and it fails to take into consideration that the end is implicit in the means. In other words, you cannot have a good end that is separate from good means. So that the idea that somehow you can do evil and good can abound, or let us sin that grace may abound, is radically fallacious and unbiblical.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
We are choosing a particular future in spite of what we claim we are if we pick a particular means. In other words, tyranny and the loss of hope is written into the kind of hope the Marxists have, because their means inevitably create an end conclusion, which is the destruction of their hopes.
Sculptor David Evans puts the finishing touches to two old friends of Londoners, Gog and Magog. 12 years ago, effigies of the two giants were destroyed when the city's Guildhall was blitzed. But now, exact replicas copied from models are all set to go back to town to take their place. Outside Guildhall, where Gog and Magog have made their home since the reign of Henry V, crowds welcome their return. Weighing 3/4 of a ton each and standing 9'3", they dwarf the onlookers. Although no one's sure why they should live in Guildhall at all, it's certainly like old times to have Gog and Magog in London again.
We ignored the signs. We deceived ourselves, hoping this day would never come. You think you've seen war, but not like this.
Well, thank you very much. Wow.
Tonight, former President Trump once again at the center of a political firestorm. The 2024 GOP primary frontrunner igniting controversy by blasting Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as his country reels from Hamas's unprecedented attack.
I'll never forget that Bibi Netanyahu let us down. That was a very terrible thing.
The comments a reference to the U.S. operation to kill Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, which Trump says Israel backed out of. The former president expressed support for Israel and pledged to stand with them if he's reelected, but criticized the country's intelligence operation for failing to anticipate the attack.
You talk about the intelligence, or you talk about some of the things that went wrong over the last week. They've got to straighten it out because they're fighting potentially a very big force.
During his speech to supporters in Florida, Trump seeming to praise Hezbollah, an Islamist military group and a U.S. designated terror organization.
And then 2 nights ago, I read all of Biden's security people. Can you imagine? National defense people. And they said, gee, I hope Hezbollah doesn't attack from the north because that's the most vulnerable spot. I said, wait a minute. You know, Hezbollah is very smart. They're all very smart.
One of Trump's 2024 rivals, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, firing back with his toughest criticism yet of the frontrunner. Writing on X, it is absurd that anyone, much less someone running for president, would choose now to attack our friend and ally, Israel, much less praise Hezbollah terrorists as very smart. As president, I will stand with Israel and treat terrorists like the scum that they are.
I'll be back. The next time I'm back, I may not be wearing a suit. I won't stop. In fact, I will be right there with you as a citizen for all my remaining days. Yes, we can. Yes, you say. Yes, you say. That I would bring about the biblical end of days. Now that's a legacy. That's big. The end of the Republic has never looked better.
Chinese President Xi Jinping is now wrapped up his three-day meeting with Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin by pledging to shape a new world order.
Yeah, and listen to this language. Xi told Putin that they are driving changes not seen in a century.
Where am I? Grandpa? What are you doing here?
Chris, welcome to the Skull and Bones Society. This is where the most powerful men in the world are groomed for their futures. Every president, every CEO, every douchebag named Ryan Seacrest. The Skull and Bones Society has been a part of my family for decades, and we want you to become a member.
Really? Wow, cool!
Excellent. You get your own stock portfolio, a percentage of the 9/11 Victims Fund, and the best medical care on the planet. You'll be kept as healthy as a horse.
The Israeli military has said its fighter jets, helicopters and artillery have struck over 500 targets overnight in Gaza.
And will provide an alternative to Western influence. As for the war in Ukraine, she said China remains impartial.
Two things I know to be true. There's no difference between good flan and bad flan. And there is no war. Guess who I am?
I would like to point out that I am under medical care and taking medication, the side effects of which have rendered me a little...
Quite touching.
Well, I also take this opportunity to suggest that equally I admit to nothing, and I would like my lawyer present.
We show, and NSA confirms, there are no nuclear devices on the Canadian border. There are no nuclear devices in Albania. Albania has no nuclear capacity. Our spy satellites show no secret terrorist training camps in the Albanian hinterland. The Border Patrol, the FBI, the RCMP report no, repeat, no untoward activity along our picturesque Canadian border. The Albanian government is screaming its defense. The world is listening. There is no war.
Of course there's a war. I'm watching it on television.
And who might you be when it's all said and done?
My name is Conrad Breen.
Who do you work for?
Nobody whose name you want me to say, Mr. Young, I promise you.
It's all well and good, but when the fit hits the shan, somebody's going to have to stay after school. Who do you suppose that might be?
I don't know what you're talking about.
The spy satellites show it, Mr. Breen. They show no war.
Then what good are they if they show no war? I mean, what are we spending $250 billion a year in the Defense Department? What good are they if they show nothing? And what, are they useless? Are they just broke or what? I mean, what is it?
I would like to point out further that these medications taken in conjunction...
If there's no threat, then where are you? Let me go you one more. If there's no threat, what good are you?
Mr. Breen, you are the threat.
I'm the threat. I am the threat. Well, what have I been doing the last 30 years that you haven't been doing? You want to fill me in on that?
The last 30 years, Mr. Breen, I have been working to ensure the security of my country.
As have we all, and I would like to point out that the security of this country...
But if forced to choose between the security of your country and the security of your job, which would you pick?
And while you hesitate, permit me to suggest that they are one and the same, your country and your job.
I'm doing my job, Mr. Breen. That's what you see me doing.
I'm doing my job.
What is it you are doing?
I'm doing my job, too. And let me ask you something. Let me ask you a simple question. Why do people go to war? Why do they go to war?
I'll play your silly game.
Okay, why do they go to war?
To ensure their way of life.
Would you go to war to do that?
I have.
And if you went to war again, who would it be against? Huh? Your ability to fight a two-ocean war against who?
Who? Sweden and Togo?
That time is past. It's over. The war of the future is nuclear terrorism. It is, and it'll be against a small group of dissidents who, unbeknownst perhaps to their own governments, have blah, 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 blah. And to go to that war, you have to be prepared. You got to be alert. The public has got to be alert, because that is the war of the future. And if you're not gearing up to fight that war, then eventually the axe will fall, and you're going to be out in the street. And you could call this a drill, you could call this job security, you could call it anything you like. But I got one for you. You said go to war to preserve your way of life. Well, Chuck, this is your way of life. And if your spy satellites don't see nothing, if there ain't no war, then you can go home and prematurely take up golf, my friend. Because there ain't no war but ours.
How the Gulf War began. morning. Yeah, I'm distressed to hear about the latest suicide bombers in Israel. For those who yearn for peace in the Middle East, for those in the Arab lands, for those in Europe, for those all around the world who yearn for peace, we must do everything we possibly can to stop the terror. Thank you. Now watch this drive. All right, you need another. See you at church.
It could keep you safe. It could keep you from getting shot. It could keep you alive. A mask could. People are amazed that there was a job title called Chief of Disguise. And most women I know wish they'd had that job. Sounded like fun. Actually, it was fun. I don't think another intelligence agency in the world devoted the time and the budget to disguise like we did.
You have declared a jihad against the United States. Can you tell us why?
The U.S. government has committed acts that are extremely unjust, hideous, and criminal through its support of the Israeli occupation of Palestine. And we believe the U.S. is directly responsible for those killed in Palestine, Lebanon, and Iraq. Due to its subordination to the Jews, the arrogance of the United States regime has reached the point that they occupied Arabia, the holiest place of the Muslims, who are more than 1 billion people in the world today. For this and other acts of aggression and injustice, we have declared jihad against the U.S.
Is the jihad directed against the U.S. government? Or United States troops in Arabia? What about U.S. civilians in Arabia or the people of the United States?
We have focused our declaration of jihad on striking at the U.S. soldiers inside Arabia, the country of the two holy places, Mecca and Medina. In our religion, it is not permissible for any non-Muslim to stay in Arabia. Therefore, even though American civilians are not targeted in our plan, they must leave. We do not guarantee their safety.
Since we've been down here, hundreds and hundreds of people have been coming down to Ground Zero. I want to see if you can see what's happening here. People just sort of coming down here, they're bringing flags, they're singing, God bless America. People start singing, then all of a sudden they start breaking out, they start cheering. I want to bring in some of the people who've come down here for various reasons. You've come down here. What made you come down? I'm sure you heard the news. Tell me what you're feeling at this moment.
Just great pride in my country and happiness and sorrow and revisiting emotions from 9/11 generally. We live in the neighborhood in Tribeca, and we just thought we're too close. We have to go down and see what's going on.
Hey, I think a lot of people are like you. Obviously, all of these people have come around here. Let's bring you in here as well. Obviously, you came down, heard about the news. Tell me what you're feeling. Why did you decide to come down to Ground Zero?
Well, it's just the most out-of-body experience to feel so involved in history. This is just such a historic moment for our country right now.
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Oh no, no, you can't disguise. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. And though I'm not making plans, I hope that you understand there's a reason why. No more broken hearts. We're better off apart. Give it a try. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Oh no, no, you can't disguise. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies.
Albert Pike, one of the founding fathers of Freemasonry, was himself a 33-degree Freemason. He was also a top leader in the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. Pike, being Sovereign Grand Commander of the Scottish Rite, was a devout Luciferian. His famous works, Morals and Dogma, in 1871, is still today considered to be the handbook or study guide for the Scottish Rite within Freemasonry. This is a direct quote from Albert Pike's works, Morals and Dogma. Open quote. Lucifer, the light-bearer, strange and mysterious name to give to the spirit of darkness. Lucifer, the son of the morning, is it he who bears the light? Doubt it not. End quote. However, the Bible contradicts this teaching. It exposes Lucifer as being Satan, open quote, and no wonder, for even Satan himself disguises himself as an angel of light, close quote. The esoteric symbol to present Lucifer is traditionally the lightning bolt. This is referencing Jesus' words in Luke chapter 10 verse 18, where he says, quote, "And I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven," end quote.
Mental health issues affect people of all ages, income levels, and cultures. No one is immune. Advocate for and promote mental well-being in your life and to those around you. You're not alone. The more you know.
It is not confirmed how many people belong to the Illuminati. According to a credible ex-Illuminati member known as Savali, they make up approximately 1% of the population. They consist of 13 bloodlines. That is to say, you are either born into the order or you're not. The 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati make up the world's elite. They are the head of the banking systems. They are the think tanks of the world, the political groups, the educational groups. They own all mainstream media channels, and their main agenda is simple: world domination, commonly called the New World Order. They see us, the general public, the masses, as nothing more than a bewildered herd or cattle. Their nickname for us, the people, is the sheeple.
So what do you think of my Trump Home mattress collection by Serta? Finally, the same luxury and comfort I demand in my hotels.
Oh, they'll never count sheep again.
Listen, why don't you come work for me?
What do you have in mind?
Something you were born to do.
Welcome to Room 9.
Looking good, number 9, looking good.
Where's your dignity?
David Rockefeller is quoted in his book Memoirs as saying, quote, "Some even believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists, and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure, one world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I'm proud of it."
I'm a man who sees life in terms of missions, missions defined, and missions completed. I will not allow this country to be made weak again. I will keep America moving forward, always forward, for an endless, enduring dream and 1,000 points of light.
To us, his was the brightest of 1,000 points of light.
I know one thing. Make America great again, we understand. Putting America first, we understand. 1,000 points of light. I never quite got that one. Try to say, what the hell is that? Has anyone ever figured that one out?
For an endless, enduring dream and 1,000 points of light. This is my mission, and I will complete it.
Okay, so as most people are well aware, the people in control of this world, the presidents, the leaders, and all those people, these people are very deep involved with the occult. And basically what the occult means is it's hidden, it's a mystery. It's not supposed to be known to people like me and you. However, we have the advent of the internet nowadays, and we can find out these things for ourselves. We have publishing prints that get out books and information across the world so that we can know what the ancient mystery schools were all about. Of course, here we have the IHS Jesuit emblem with 1,000 points of light emanating from it. I don't think that's an accident.
And I was reading Ezekiel 8 again. I'm just completely being led to this particular chapter because, I mean, my spirit is just telling me there's a lot here to be, a lot to be learned here. And it pertains to exactly what's going on today. And again, you're going to have to read Ezekiel 8 and understand it for yourself. And everything I tell you, I can only tell you to take it to prayer, discern everything, and research it for yourself. I'm going to leave a ton of links for this. So, I mean, the research has already been done for you. I just am not the best at articulating these things to you. That's all. But when he tells them to dig into the wall, now they're at the temple now, and this is God giving Ezekiel these visions, and he tells them to behold the wicked abominations that they do, the idols of the house of Israel, the 70 men of the ancients of the house of Israel. And he repeats these things over and over. See what they do, the ancients of the house of Israel, in the dark. Every man, he seeth us not, right? So there's your Isaiah 29:15. So again, I'm led right back to the synagogue. And this time, I was led to count all the chairs and to study how this is laid out. And this is what I'm going to share with you in this particular video. If you look in this synagogue and count all the chairs, both in the audience section and in the inner circle here, this little semicircle, you have 111 seats in total. And once I got that figure, it was obvious to me, and I was literally just led right to where I had seen these things before. And this is all related to the Kabbalah. Okay? You have your Kabbalah tree, your 10-10-10, and your 1-1-1, and the knowledge of learning and gaining throughout your life, essentially. Kabbalah is very, very ancient and very, very Jewish, and you can learn all about it. They're eager to teach you about it. Again, I'll leave all these links. What is Kabbalah? It is the soul of Judaism. This is what they say, and I'll leave links for everything. But the Kabbalah also has other uses, and the ones who attend the synagogue, essentially they're probably 98% well-meaning, God-loving. They sincerely seek the Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but they're being deceived. Okay? And that little tiny percentage, they're the ones that are doing the deceiving, and they're the ones that are working for Satan. And hardly any of them even know it. But some of them do. And they work off of the Kabbalah tree. Now, there are many versions. The tarot emanates from the Kabbalah tree. Okay? You need to look into this stuff if you're so inclined. The two pillars, Jachin and Boaz, outside of the temple, which I believe is what was being referred to in Ezekiel as the abominations at the gate of the altar. I just don't see how God could approve of them. And he tells Ezekiel to go into and see the abominations that they do. And just for this video, because I just can't contain and show all of it to you, but the 111 should just tell you that they're totally Kabbalists. And the way that these chairs are situated is very, very telling. Because if you look on the inner section here, there are 2 rows of 4 chairs at the very, very center of the synagogue here. Right up towards the front, which is right here. You see these 2 rows of 4 chairs? Those, plus the idol, because that's what I'm calling it. I'm calling that an abomination. They've gone in here more or less in secret, doing it right in front of us, though, because that's what they do. And they've created an abomination almost directly below where the holies of holies, the literal presence of God, would be. And there's 8 chairs, and the 1, 9. That's what's known as the Council of 9. And if you don't believe that that's true, I just don't know what to tell you. But, I mean, simple wiki. If you do any digging into this, you'll find the real nitty-gritty details, but the Council of 9 is very real. It was to punish mankind, Zeus, and 8 other deities gathered to form the Council of 9. It's all here.
For supposedly laws God gave to Noah. If you break the laws, most punishments are beheading. George Bush Sr. signed it into law. He snuck it in with an Education Day recognition bill, recognizing the Jewish scholar who supports living under Noahide laws. For those that don't already know, there is an evil sect of Jewish people that practice the Kabbalah, mysticism, witchcraft. You know where the tarot cards come from. Tarot cards are like a portable Kabbalah, if that makes sense. Both are hinged by a tree of life. It's a diagram with 10 points and 22 paths. There's your 22 major cards of the tarot, and also witches used to have 22 paths or courses of study. It's all the same old witchcraft, later called Kabbalah or tarot. Kabbalah originated in the 1600s, although they try and convince people it began way earlier. There's a lot of subtlety implied, though. In their rise to position, there's a bunch of ritualistic junk, and then they choose to be a goat instead of a sheep. The evils are all in there, and it's all based on the Old Testament and 12 tribes, you name it, 10 commandments. That makes it even more evil to me. Talk about the deepest depths of Luciferianism. And on the JewishScholars.org website, it talks about peace and love and how they want to implement the Noahide laws into the education systems and charities through the United Nations. This is some really creepy stuff. And this is who and what George Bush is honoring with the so-called Education Day. U.S. President George W. Bush discusses roadmap to world peace based on 7 universal Ben Noah laws. You can look that up. Among the religious leaders was Rabbi Yaakov Cohen, who represented the Worldwide Institute of Noahide Code, an organization dedicated to promote the Noahide Code of 7 universal Noah laws. Rabbi Cohen presented the roadmap to world peace, explaining that the Noahide laws will unite all of mankind. The Talmud lists the punishment for blaspheming the ineffable name of God as death. The sons of Noah are to be executed by decapitation for most crimes, considered one of the lightest capital punishments, by stoning if he has intercourse with a Jewish betrothed woman, or by strangulation if the Jewish woman has completed the marriage ceremonies but had not yet consummated the marriage. In Jewish law, the only form of blasphemy which is punishable by death is blaspheming the ineffable name Leviticus. The Maimonides state that anyone who does not accept the 7 laws is to be executed, as God compelled the world to follow these laws. However, for other prohibitions, such as the grafting of trees and bestiality, he holds that the sons of Noah are not to be executed. Now keep in mind, these Jews are not worshiping God Almighty, the I Am that I Am. They're worshiping Lucifer. According to the Maimonides, the Jewish scholars, anyone who accepts upon himself and carefully observes the 7 commandments is one of the righteous of the nations of the world and has a portion in that world to come. How creepy is that? According to Wikipedia, in practice, Jewish law makes it very difficult to apply the death penalty. But America is under a U.S. law now, isn't it? That's crazy. If you look on their .org page, you'll see they're all up in the United Nations talking about world peace and coming together in unity. Blasphemy against God is probably the law that will cause Christians to be beheaded because these Jews are demonic. They don't believe in Jesus Christ, so to them, we would be worshiping a false god. Now, this is a small group of Jews that practice this. It's like the evil Jewish Pharisees back in the time when they crucified Jesus on the cross. These are those that claim to be Jews but are not. God literally calls them out in the Bible for what they are. In Revelation 3:9, "Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee." Like I said, in their little rituals to grow in levels, they literally proclaim they are goats and not sheep. In layman's term, they are Satan's, not God's people. Those claiming to be Jews that are not. Revelation 3:9. So apparently this Noahide law can be implemented at any time. But something like this, it can only be carried out with a nationwide martial law in place.
I want all of them.
Good luck finding them.
Until they're produced, I'm declaring Jericho to be in open insurrection. Lights, power, food supplies. 9 p.m. tonight. I'm shutting it all down.
It is just after 2 a.m. there and the skyline is dark. These are live pictures, as you can see. Very different from yesterday. Israel has ordered a total blockade of the territory. This means they've cut off food, water, fuel and electricity.
We've lived without that stuff before. We'll do it again.
Do not move! You really want to test me, huh? You want to see how far I'll take it? Move back! Whatever happens from here on out, never forget, you caused it.
Now, I did a video a couple years back, Guillotines in the U.S. Update, January 2014. It talks about the state of Georgia lawmakers trying to pass a law to use guillotines in prison for organ harvesting. It didn't pass, but apparently the guillotines were brought in during this, and they're all being stored on military bases. 30,000 guillotines is what's reported. So the guillotines are already here. Bush has already passed the law to go back to the Noahide 7 laws, which includes beheadings if you break the laws. The Institute of Noahide held the event One People, One World at the United Nations, demonstrating the universal appeal of the Noahide 7 laws, regardless of divisions of nationality, class, or creed. They claim to be protecting everyone, both Jews and non-Jews, labeling it a humanitarian effort, an attempt to promote its values. Just don't break the laws and you won't be beheaded.
Somebody didn't want the gray state investigated, explored, and unveiled. That's why David Crowley is dead. He was the writer and director of one of the most controversial movies in modern history. And somebody didn't want him to produce it. What was so threatening about David Crowley and the gray state concept? Like Gray State, many Hollywood films have depicted apocalyptic themes and end-of-the-world scenarios. Yet the directors of these films are still alive. Roland Emmerich wasn't murdered after directing blockbusters 2012 and A Day After Tomorrow. Steven Soderbergh wasn't killed after his movie, Contagion. But David Crowley is dead, along with his wife and child. They were killed before the production could be completed. What was so dangerous about Gray State? David Crowley claimed that his movie was based on real events, not Hollywood propaganda like you see in movies such as 2012.
California is going down!
God, you sound like a crazy person. The governor just said we're fine now.
The guy's an actor, he's reading a script!
So the Gray State is essentially an artistic representation of real aspects put into a fictional format. Once you open your eyes and start looking at all these trends like RFID, like martial law, like FEMA, like executive orders, you have to act within your own capacity to sort of, talk about this. A lot of people filter that into the political realm. A lot of people do other things like grassroots style. I mean, I'm a filmmaker, Danny's an actor. So we put our heads together and we started making a project that would act within our own faculty to portray that in a creative manner. So there's a story here. I have to start telling a story. So I was looking for the next film project to work on anyway. I'm like, well, this would be perfect. And it's not really perfect because you have to kind of filter down all this stuff into a narrative storyline that's not just propaganda telling you what's going to happen next, like 2012 or A Day After Tomorrow. It's got to be a human story, and it's got to be enduring and compelling. The way we're different is we're independent, and we don't expect any participation from any studios just because of its contentious nature. I mean, anyone knows that Hollywood has not approached this topic so directly before. That's what makes Gray State so compelling. It's that different. Definitely the trailer is our best efforts to kind of show this world and expose these very real issues that exist in our world today.
David claims that Hollywood has never dealt with topics like RFID, internment camps in America, and detention. Instead, they have produced propaganda in place of real issues. When Hollywood does discuss internment and detention, it's almost always about World War II and the Holocaust. Literally thousands of films have been produced about the Holocaust, and yet one single film that addresses the potential for a Holocaust in the United States is stopped mid-production after its director is murdered. Seems a bit odd, doesn't it? They don't want Americans, Canadians, and other Western countries to know what is coming. And that is a plan to intentionally collapse Western society. If you don't believe me, read the plan that's been in the books for over a century. Planned out by the Illuminati and penned by Albert Pike back in the 1800s in his 3 World War predictions.
Yes, please.
Okay. Are any of you Masons?
No.
Tour takes about an hour and it's $8 a person.
So here we are in the Grand Lodge of Scottish Rite of Freemasonry here in Washington, D.C. We are inside the building right now. We're going to take a little bit of a tour, check out some of the scenery in here.
This is Albert Pike. Yep. He was our Grand Commander from 1859 till 1891 when he died in office. The reason why he's so significant is because he rewrote the rituals of Masonry and he rewrote the code book, Morals and Dogma. We have his body downstairs.
Was there another kind of Grand Commander before Albert Pike?
Yeah, there were several Grand Commanders before him, but he's the most prominent. He died at 82 years old, and so we asked every Grand Commander to step down when they're 81.
Amazing. Check this out. I was rather blown away by the really the occult significance of the architecture inside the building. We were shown one of the main ritual rooms where they conduct their rituals, where only members of the 33rd degree are allowed in there, and the tour guide himself didn't seem to know a whole lot about the actual symbols and the meaning behind some of the symbolism.
So we call this room our temple room. It's not actually designed to look like a Christian temple. You'll notice the dome above us. It weighs 330 tons, and there's only steel found at the base of it. The reason why there's a hole or an oculus is because Masons believe anything that is perfect must be created by God. There are 33 chairs in this room. There are 33 degrees in Scottish Rite Masonry. 33 states in the southern jurisdiction, so that's why you'll see the number 33. All the wood in this room is from Russia. It's Russian walnut. The altar in the middle of the room is black marble quarried from Lake Champlain in New York. And the Hebrew writing in the middle says, God said, let there be light, and there was light.
So there's 3 with 1 missing, it looks like. Is this the
I don't know exactly.
north, south, west, and the east is missing, or?
No, that would be the east.
That would be the east?
Because that's north.
Right.
I don't know why that is missing, actually.
I asked him why there were only 3 lights at the altar, and he said he wasn't too sure why, but there are 3 because 1 represents the east, 1 represents the west, 1 represents the south, but in Masonry, the north is the place of darkness. And of course, according to the Bible tells us that the north is where God resides. Masonic Holy Bible.
When was this built? Who built them?
1911. It was started and it was finished in 1915. This was the architect's first major building. He went on to do the National Archives, National Gallery of Art, and the Jefferson Memorial. The snakes represent chaos, and the further up you go in the windows, the more light they let in, symbolizing enlightenment. So it's supposed to mean when you join Masonry, you join at a time of chaos in your life, and the further up you go in degrees, the more enlightened you become.
So, in the beginning, you just have to be open to the concept of there being a God. But as you work your way up the ranks and you gain enlightenment, he showed us windows in there that get brighter and brighter as you go up. And I found that very interesting. The windows were also surrounded by serpents. I asked him, what is the symbolism of the serpent? He said that's all about order out of chaos. The serpents represent chaos. And that is the motto of Freemasonry, really, is order out of chaos. This is precisely how they can gain their control.
Gray State was simply too threatening. It revealed too much, not just the obvious points of what could happen with the collapse of a society, things like martial law, food shortages, and a provisional government. It goes beyond this. David knew a secret, and he left it inside of the trailer for Gray State, in plain sight. David Crowley used the Illuminati's favorite game against the notorious Cabal. It's a game they've played with the human race for years. They provide clues about the future to toy with us. They did it with 9/11. They've done it with other major catastrophes. It's called predictive programming. On occasion, though, they get outsmarted at their own game. What was David's hidden message inside the Gray State? And could it be the reason for his death? Perhaps the scariest part of Gray State's conceptual trailer is this character here, who appears to be operating a guillotine. David Crowley was very intentional in this frame of the movie. He added something that I believe he wanted the people to know about. Who is the identity of this executioner? If you look closely, you will see that this terrifying character is wearing something around his waist. It appears to look like an apron. The executioner wears a Freemason apron, complete with the all-seeing eye, the compass, and the 2 pillars. I do believe David Crowley is trying to tell us something.
The pillars are 30 tons of Windsor granite, quarried from Indiana, and the velvet is 400 pounds of Italian velvet. This chair we have right here is called the Tyler's chair. The man who sat here held a sword ceremoniously. It was his job to guard this room during council sessions to make sure people didn't listen in. Of course, we have the sword downstairs, and it's not sharp. I don't think he had to hit anyone with it, but you never know. And know thyself is a quote from Pythagoras. It's a quote that Masons take to heart. This room's called our executive chamber. You'll notice the Tyler sword right here. This is the sword the man held that I was telling you about upstairs. As you can see, it's not sharp. This is the Grand Commander's scepter. It's what he would carry in to start council sessions. And this case will only be opened in October of this year for a council session. Council sessions every other year in October. This is where the 33 Inspector Generals would meet. There are 33 states in the Southern Jurisdiction, and we are the headquarters of the Southern Jurisdiction of Scottish Rite Masonry. They would meet in here at night. They would discuss legislative and money issues in here. Upstairs is mainly used for rituals. The ceiling actually used to be open. It used to be an open ceiling, but they closed that off because the meetings in here were held at night. There was no point having an open ceiling. And the reason why there's a Bible, a Quran, and a Torah on the altar here is because you don't have to believe in Jesus Christ. You can be any religion, just so long as you believe in God and be a Mason. These are just the holy books our leaders pray to.
The reason why they had the Quran and the Bible and the Pentateuch is because, as he said in his own words, you don't have to believe in Jesus Christ. You just have to believe in the idea that there is a God. And that is because Freemasonry is very much an ecumenical movement. It brings together all kinds of religions because you have to be open to the concept of there being a God. They refer to the God as the grand architect of the universe. That way it can encompass everyone on earth, and there can be members of the Brotherhood from the Muslim world, members of the Brotherhood from the Christian world, all over the world, bringing them all together.
So if you donate $1 million or more, you get your name on a plaque here, and you get a picture downstairs. We do have some plaques that open here, so if you all have $1 million just lying around, we accept checks, cash, credit cards. The Bush family and the Studebaker family are up there, although neither George Bush Sr. nor Jr. was a Mason. The light well in the back there was put in 1993. There are 33 beams of light, and Fiat Lux is Latin for let there be light, and Ordo ab Chao is order from chaos.
What is the significance of the Order ab Chao?
It's like a Masonic motto almost. So when you join Masonry, they say your life is in chaos, like you're not orderly. Mm-hmm. But the further up you go in Masonry, the more order you gain, the more enlightenment you gain.
Can I tell you a little story? Please. When I came here, one journalist said, anybody dumb enough to accept the job is too dumb to do it. He got a great laugh from people because it's a kind of a funny line, let's face it. But God, I said to myself, how sad for our country when we're facing some tough opposition in this world to take such a cynical view of intelligence in the 1976 time. He got his laugh and I got my little hurt inside from it, but it made me determined that I'm going to approach this job with pride, and they can have all the jokes they want on television about the CIA. It's vital to the national security of the United States. And I feel so dedicated and strongly about it that I just wanted to wedge that in, apropos of no question you've asked.
How long are you going to stay?
I serve at the pleasure of the President.
I understand that. How long are you going to stay?
I'm going to stay as long as the President wants me to stay, Mike.
Yeah.
There's no politics in this thing for me. Good heavens. You'd have to be hallucinating to think there was any political mileage in this kind of a job.
I'm Jason Higley out of West Richmond, Virginia, Local 322. I've been a Teamster for 13 years. Being a Teamster for me has meant so much to my family. Quality of life, pay, health insurance, and the strong support of the local for job security. Richmond City workers, join the Teamsters and get the dignity and respect you deserve.
He is telling us that the organization behind the French and American revolutions, the organization behind the Italian Revolution of 1830, the organization that outlined a plan to overtake the Vatican in a document called the Alta Vendita, the organization behind the Trail of Tears and the deaths of thousands of Native Americans under Freemason Grand Master Andrew Jackson, the organization behind the Ku Klux Klan in the United States post-Civil War and its rebirth in 1915, the organization behind the detonations at Hiroshima and Nagasaki during 33rd degree Freemason Harry Truman's presidency. These are men with a radical revolutionary agenda throughout the entire world because they worship and follow a radical revolutionary deity. The first to have led a revolt against the Most High Lord.
You prove to the entire world that you can set your mind to something important, push through and succeed, showing all of us that you, our next generation, already possess the strength and resilience of the American
spirit. David Crowley knew something, and he was trying to warn the people. The ones behind the FEMA death camps, the guillotines, and the detention of Americans is the Freemasons. They're planning a second American Revolution.
It happened in just a few weeks. Our own greed did us in. And before we knew it, the dollar flu spread like wildfire. A few weeks. That's how long it took for a civilization to collapse.
The governor of New York has asked for federal help as city services are collapsing.
Manhattan was being torn apart. So they locked it down. Or tried. But it was already too late.
The government is resorting to drastic measures to tackle the crisis.
That is why the president today has decided to invoke Directive 51.
So they finally activated us. The Strategic Homeland Division. An elite group of embedded agents. We are the last line of defense. And we will give our lives to save what remains.
U.S. presidents were Masons, but the last one was Ford. Bill Clinton was a DeMolay, which is a junior Mason. He never became a full Mason.
I remember reading online that this building is based off of a Roman design.
It's Mausoleum of Halicarnassus. It's one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world.
Okay.
It's the tomb of the emperor, the king Halicarnassus. And on either side of our pillars of charity are our crypts. So Mr. Pike is buried 6 feet behind here, and Mr. Cowles is buried 6 feet behind there. Mr. Pike was moved here in 1944. We were fighting World War II at the time, so there was no mayor of Washington, D.C. So we had to ask the U.S. Congress if we could move his body across state lines. So it took an act of Congress to bring Mr. Pike here. Mr. Cowles lived in this building. He was our Grand Commander in the first half of the century. He lived in this building, he died in this building, and he wanted to be buried here. I've been told that these 2 men roam the halls as ghosts. I've not seen that, but if you do see them, let me know.
Albert Pike is a main component of this building. We were shown statues of Pike. We were shown where his body is entombed inside of here. And Albert Pike is also the one who wrote Morals and Dogma, and he very openly talks about who the true God of Freemasonry is. And in Morals and Dogma, he mentions that when you look to the light, as they told us over and over again, Masonry is about finding the light. And Albert Pike, which he clearly is highly revered, tells us in his book, Morals and Dogma, that the light bearer is Lucifer.
Lucifer, what is your problem?
Just that, sir.
Okay.
I'm a Christian, sir.
I'm pure and virtuous and wholesome and innocent. How can you say anything bad about me?
Sir, you need to be born again.
I am born again.
Now, did you just say that you were Lucifer?
I am Lucifer.
Okay, define Lucifer for me.
Pure, virtuous, wholesome, innocent individual that's out to help people.
Lucifer is?
Yeah.
Say that again. Lucifer is a pure, holy...
Virtuous.
Virtuous. Now, is he the Lucifer that God created?
That's the same one.
Oh, man, this is great. I'm going to put this on the internet.
Oh,
Amen.
God bless you,
Amen.
brother.
Because that's exactly what the Shriners and Masons teach, is that Lucifer is light.
No.
And you're
what
you're
about
confirming
those hospitals?
You know what, sir? Jesus said, many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, we did not do these good deeds in your name? And you'll say, away from me, you workers of iniquity, I never knew you.
Jesus said it?
In Matthew chapter 5.
Mercy.
No.
That's hard to believe.
So you're a Christian and you don't know that? Actually,
no, I really am.
You are.
Because I'm pure and virtuous.
You're pure and virtuous, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. In other words, you're perfect without Jesus, right?
No.
Okay, tell me about Jesus. Who is Jesus?
Oh. Well, he's my leader.
Is he the Son of God?
Yes, he is.
Is he the only worshipful master?
Yes.
Have you ever been called worshipful master?
No, because I've just been too busy. I've been working.
Working?
Working to help people.
What
like
kind of work? Okay.
Get out of here.
See, this is what a Mason confesses, is that Lucifer is light.
So this room houses our Albert Pike collection. Not only was Albert Pike our Grand Commander from 1859 till 1891 when he died in office, he was also a well-known teacher, lawyer, explorer, and Confederate general. He fought for the South during the Civil War because he thought the South would treat the Native Americans better. He was born in Massachusetts, but he did not fight for the North. All the books you see in this room are from his personal library, and he wrote about half of them. This painting is of George Washington laying the cornerstone to our Capitol. This is significant because he's wearing his full Masonic ritual regalia. He's got his square and compass, he's got his apron, he's got his gavel. And the three men to the right of him here are holding corn, oil, and wine, which are Old Testament gifts of prosperity. And they were leaders of lodges from around here. Now that cornerstone has been lost to history. People have tried looking for it and they cannot find it. They buried cornerstones under the ground. People have told me that that cornerstone has some Masonic writing on it. Whether that's some lost legend or a mystery on it, I don't know, but we cannot find it. This painting is of George Washington taking the oath of office as our first president. This is in New York because New York was the capital at the time. And the reason why this painting is so significant is because the man in blue holding the Bible is a Mason, and he's holding a Masonic Bible. That is the Bible that has been used by basically every president since George Washington. Although Barack Obama did not use that Bible, he used Abraham Lincoln's personal Bible. That Bible has still been used by basically every president.
What's the difference between a Masonic Bible versus...
Masonic Bible has Masonic inscriptions in it. It's still a King James Bible. It just has Masonic inscriptions, and they use it for rituals. So this hallway contains paintings of each degree's regalia. So these plaques here say which degree you are. So the 22nd degree is the Knight Royal Axe, Prince of Libanus. And this text here is the lesson that you learned at that degree. Y'all can feel free to take a look at each one of the degrees. Take your time. this room is dedicated to Masonic philanthropy. Masons give on average $2 million a day back to the community. That ranges from scholarships to funding hospitals, to paying to homeless shelters, that sort of thing. Masons do a lot. It's just not something people know about.
Is the philanthropy public, or do you mean they don't know?
It's public. It's just people don't pay attention to it, or people have certain assumed things about Masonry, like they think it's a cult or something like that. They choose to ignore this sort of thing. This room in here contains international books, so minutes or notes from lodges around the world, they get sent to us and we categorize them. Their famous Masons include Gene Autry, Audie Murphy, Douglas MacArthur, Brad Paisley, Arnold Palmer, J. Edgar Hoover. There have been many famous people that have been Masons. We call this room our Americanism Museum. It's dedicated to famous Americans who have been Masons. Some highlights include a portrait of George Washington that you see there. We have the 33rd copy. We also have a replica flag of the Masonic flag that was put on the moon.
On the 12th of April 1945, Harry Truman became the 33rd President of the United States when his predecessor, Franklin D. Roosevelt, suddenly died while having his portrait painted. Welcome to History Pod. Truman was Roosevelt's vice president, but had only held the position since January. Meanwhile, Roosevelt had been president for 4 terms and had overseen both America's recovery from the Great Depression and its involvement in the Second World War. Truman consequently faced an enormous challenge simply by being the person to follow Roosevelt as president, let alone face the ongoing struggles of the Second World War. He told reporters that he felt like the moon, the stars and all the planets had fallen on me.
Comments are still headed.
What else is on?
Yeah, let's see what else is. Coming to you now from the largest studio ever constructed, it's The Truman Show!
Yeah! Good morning!
Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
What if? No scripts, no cue cards.
Morning, Spencer. How's it going?
What if you were watched every moment of your life?
How many cameras you got there in that town?
5,000.
I believe Truman is the first child to have been legally adopted by a corporation.
That's correct.
Brilliant.
What if everyone you knew was pretending?
Hi, honey. Look what I got at the checkout. Dishwasher safe.
That's amazing.
What if your world was make-believe? Cue the sun. While the world he inhabits is counterfeit.
I'm not allowed to talk to you.
That's how I look. Not your type. There's nothing fake about Truman himself. What if you didn't know it? Until now.
A lot of strange things have been happening.
Stand by ring cam.
Is he looking at us?
Does he think he knows? I think I'm mixed up in something. Something big.
We accept the reality with which we're presented.
Everybody's pretending, Truman. Get out of here. Come and find me. Truman?
Even Roosevelt's wife, Eleanor, recognised the scale of the task facing the new president. When he asked if there was anything he could do for her, she's said to have replied, "Is there anything I can do for you? For you are the one in trouble now."
Anything happen?
No.
You may find yourself in another part of the world.
Feels like the whole world revolves around me. Everybody seems to be in on it.
I'm going away for a while.
You may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful wife. You may ask yourself, how did I get here?
Eleanor Roosevelt's words were not an overstatement, as the task facing the new president was enormous. World War II was still raging in both Europe and the Pacific, and his predecessor had not told him about the worsening relationship with the USSR, nor about the Manhattan Project's development of the atomic bomb that was just a few months away from completion. Truman took the decision to continue with the bomb's development, and in August that year left a lasting mark on international politics by ordering the bombings of the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
I'm not in on it, Truman, because the last thing that I would ever do is lie to you.
It is for his role in the origins of the Cold War that Truman is now probably most well remembered.
Music, that's our hero shot. He's gone.
Okay? Yes! Want to do it again? No!
Find him. Truman, where are you going?
You can do it.
How do we stop him? Give me some light.
Is that the best you can do?
Cut transmission! I like your pen. I was wondering that myself.
Jim Carrey. The Truman Show. Watch what happens.
To create problem, reaction, solution scenarios to distract, enrage, and enslave American citizens at home. With tools like the Patriot Act and the National Defense Authorization Act, which abridge the Constitution in the name of national security. The militarization of police forces in cities across the U.S., the building of prison camps by the Federal Emergency Management Agency with no stated purpose, the corporate takeover of food and agriculture, pharmaceuticals and healthcare, even the military in clandestine agendas to fatten, dull, sicken, and control a populace already consumed by consumerism.
And I encourage you all to go shopping more.
A government that taps your phone, collects your data, and monitors your whereabouts with impunity. A government preparing to use that data against you when it strikes. And the final takeover begins.
The takeover of America.
By a well-oiled and well-armed multinational group of elites that will cull, kill, and subjugate.
Happening as we sit here.
It's happening all around us.
The other shoe waiting to drop.
It'll probably start on a Friday. The banks will announce a security action necessitating their computers to go offline all weekend.
Digital money will disappear.
They can just steal your money?
A small business owner in Gilbert wanted to expand his operation and began accepting credit cards and debit cards for purchases.
Simplifies things, right? But after he started using that popular Square device, that card reader, it didn't take long to rack up a $25,000 problem. On Your Side's Gary Harper is on the case.
Well, this viewer says he was pretty excited to make his first big sale, around $25,000 to be exact, but he says he can't get his hands on all that money. And here's why. Brandon Anderson designs commercial kitchens for restaurants.
I'm basically a kitchen architect is what I do.
And business is so good, Brandon decided to expand his small company by selling kitchen equipment along with his newly designed kitchens. To accommodate his clients, Brandon started accepting credit cards and planned on using a payment method called Square to swipe the cards. But when he made a sale for more than $25,000, there was a big problem.
They send me an email saying they deactivated my account and they're going to hold the money for 90 days.
Square wouldn't explain why they closed the account or why they would hold on to Brandon's $25,000 for 3 months. The issue put Brandon in a huge financial pinch.
I borrowed some money from family at first, and then I realized it wasn't going to be nearly enough, so I had to take out a personal loan to cover the rest.
Well, 90 days came and went, and Brandon says that's when he got another email from Square saying they were keeping his $25,000 for another 30 days. So Brandon reached out to On Your Side, and we asked Square to investigate Brandon's problem. They did, and immediately released all $25,000 back to Brandon. In an email to On Your Side, Square states, "We monitor the activities on our platform, and we may take steps in accordance with our policies to ensure the safety of our platform and consumers."
Followed by the detonation of strategic electromagnetic pulse bombs to knock out major grids.
What will seem like an attack on America by terrorists or Russia.
Or a simulated alien invasion using alien replica vehicles that exist and are already in use.
An alien invasion of the U.S.
The Russians tried it in '47.
You can't say these things.
I'm going to say them tomorrow.
It's fear-mongering, claptrap, isolationist, techno-paranoia, so bogus and dangerous and stupid that it borders on treason.
Well, yeah, people come out and they've run out of anecdotes, you know, and they just start making stuff up.
Yeah.
Like that Neil Armstrong guy. Have you seen him on the talk shows?
Neil Armstrong, you mean the first man to walk on the moon?
Talk about a fish story. Man, and they're buying it.
Oh, yeah.
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question.
I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened.
Oh man, that's the best idea since they faked the moon landing.
Okay, cut.
Wow, Neil Armstrong. Hey, wait a minute. You're supposed to be on the moon. I just saw it on TV.
Oh, there's a tape delay and with all solar winds.
The Masonic flag was put on the moon? Yep. Buzz Aldrin was Mason. He put a Masonic flag on the moon.
So he left one just like it?
Yeah, a larger version of it. They brought 14 flags to the moon and only took a couple back.
I've only ever seen pictures of the American flag.
Stuff you don't know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jerry. All new at 5:30 now. We're getting our first look at the makeup of another faraway world. So NASA is publicly unveiling its first sample collection from an asteroid. The OSIRIS-REx mission returned to Earth in late September, carrying on it samples from an asteroid and hopefully some answers.
Now, one thing I really want your generation to embrace is that the Earth is a closed system. We cannot leave the Earth. There's no place to go.
News 6's James Sparvero shows us the new images and tells us what scientists are learning already from this historic pile of rocks and dust.
You ready to see the results of the mission? Take a peek.
A peek behind the curtain at the Johnson Space Center, where Administrator Bill Nelson says NASA's scientists have learned these rocks from an asteroid are made up of water and carbon.
The carbon and water molecules are exactly the kinds of material that we wanted to find. They are crucial elements in the formation of our own planet.
And liftoff of OSIRIS-REx. Launching from Cape Canaveral in 2016, OSIRIS-REx collected its sample 4 years later and then returned to Earth with even more material than anticipated last month.
Touchdown of the OSIRIS-REx sample return capsule. A journey of 1 billion miles to asteroid Bennu and back has come to an end.
Force field. It's a dome. We're at the edge of the arena.
Although we weren't able to shatter that highest, hardest glass ceiling this time, thanks to you, it's got about 18 million cracks in it.
While some of the sample will be on display at museums, NASA says much of it will continue to be studied, just like the moon rocks at the Johnson Space Center more than 50 years after the Apollo missions.
When I was talking with the gentleman from Belcom, and we were discussing the lie, everything he was telling me was different from what we were being told was the truth. And at one point I asked him, I said, man, you guys, you lied about a lot, didn't you? And instantly he said, no, we didn't lie about certain things. We lied about everything. None of it was true. I really don't think people realize how deep the lie goes.
Space, the final frontier.
Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement.
At first glance, the Manitoba legislature is like other Canadian provincial parliaments, based on Gothic designs of the early 20th century. But look closely. See the detail. There's something extraordinary here. Just ask local historian Frank Alba.
I was driving down this familiar street, and out of the corner of my eye I spotted these two Egyptian sphinxes, and I thought, you know, what on earth is the embodiment of the sun god doing in this frozen, bald prairie?
For 11 years now, Alba's been studying this building. He discovered that the architect based the design on an ancient temple in Jerusalem, and it combined Greek and Roman myth, religion, numerology, and the precepts of a secret society that's still around today.
If you're really in the greatest temple ever constructed by the Freemasons, King Solomon's temple, destroyed 2,600 years ago, what you'd expect to find in the center is a blazing star, a blazing black star in the center.
Conspiracy theories about such things abound. Witness the success of the Da Vinci Code or internet sites that speculate that Washington, D.C. streets are laid out to a secret plan. Alba insists his work is different.
Here, the fact is much more engaging than a fictional conspiratorial trail. This is a product of the early 20th century and the mind of a genius who happened to be an architect and obsessed with the ancient mystical world.
More than 11,000 people have taken this tour, whether it's the abiding appeal of strange historical secrets or a genuine interest in architecture and design. People can't get enough of it.
There's mysteries out there that just we don't know about. I'm just it's just makes you think like crazy.
You either know or you don't know, and I know that everything you said is fact.
I want to believe it. If he would be a priest, I will go in his sect or in his. It's fantastic.
I didn't know the Cat in the Hat was a Freemason. Was Dr. Seuss a Mason?
No, he was not. This is just for kids.
Oh, okay.
Esoteric and occult symbolism, references to Christianity, Jewish mysticism, and Freemasonry, and strange acoustics in a room that's supposed to represent a sacrificial altar. The Manitoba legislature has it all.
We were allowed into the library of Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, where it's probably one of the largest collection of Freemasonic books inside. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'm rather blown away, and it was quite the experience. I could almost feel the creepy, evil energy coming off of this place just from being inside.
Egyptian mummies on the move. The Golden Parade, a multi-million-dollar procession through the streets of Cairo for Egypt's ancient rulers, 3,000 years after their burial. A guard of honor and a gun salute. 22 ancient mummies taken on a historic journey. The 4 queens and 18 kings, including Ramses the Great, one of Egypt's legendary pharaohs who ruled for more than 60 years.
The parade is very important, not only for Egypt, but for the whole world.
The mummies emerging from their cramped accommodation at Egypt's historic museum. We visited the museum in 2017. More than 100,000 artifacts were kept there, not always safely. During Egypt's revolution in 2011, it was broken into and 50 objects were stolen. The mummy's new home, the state-of-the-art National Museum of Egyptian Civilization, will be safer and far more modern. The 3-mile parade, less than an hour long, made for TV and aimed at attracting tourists to Egypt again, with many local people from poor districts of Cairo prevented from attending. For the mummies themselves, a sophisticated process. The ancient bodies x-rayed and sealed in nitrogen, then kept in bespoke capsules and moved in special vehicles to keep them safe. Egypt has been making news lately, struggling with COVID infections, the blockage of the Suez Canal, and a deadly train crash. On social media, some even suggesting the parade was cursed.
Everyone said this is the curse of the mummies. But I said there is no curse of the mummies.
Egypt's ancient past, an ever-present influence on its future. And this weekend, the source of a truly stunning spectacle.
I mean, Kira, spectacle to be sure, but one would assume that they could have transported those mummies without the fanfare, the pomp and the circumstance. How much of this was about attracting tourism back to Egypt right now?
Oh yeah, a huge amount, Craig. Like so many countries, Egypt's tourism industry, a fifth of its economy, a $12 billion industry, has just disappeared. They're hoping that you'll see these images at home and say to each other, why don't we go to Egypt when we have a chance? Inevitably though, Craig, there are those on social media saying, in a packed 2021, and I think these folks are joking, why would you unleash cursed mummies onto the streets? It's a pretty good question, guys.
It's a legitimate concern. Kirsten was forced there.
Always a naysayer.
Oh, yeah,
I was going to take. Why don't we go to Egypt?
We're going.
Let's
take the
go
show.
to Egypt.
Today
goes to Egypt. It looks pretty cool to me.
Saying these things would be incredibly irresponsible.
It's irresponsible not to say it.
Especially if it's the truth.
It's you!
Yes, man cub. So nice to see you again.
Oh, go away. Leave me alone.
Let me look at you. You don't want me to look at you? Then you look at me.
No, sir. I know what you're trying to do. Cop?
You do? You don't trust me.
No.
Then there's nothing I can do to help.
You want to help me?
Certainly.
Okay. So let's dedicate this to General Kelly, the Border Patrol, and the ICE agents for doing such an incredible job. Right? This was written by Al Wilson a long time ago. And I thought of it having to do with our borders and people coming in. And we know what we're going to have. We're going to have problems. We have to very, very carefully vet. We have to be smart. We have to be vigilant. So here it is, the snake. It's called the snake. On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty-colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. "Poor thing," she cried, "I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you." The border. "Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and as soon as she arrived, she found that pretty snake she'd taken in had been revived. "Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed that vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. "You're so beautiful," she cried. "But if I hadn't brought you in by now, oh heavens, you would have died." She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed him and held him tight. But instead of saying thank you, that snake gave her a vicious bite. "Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed the vicious snake. "I have saved you," cried the woman, "and you've bitten me, heavens, why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die." "Oh, shut up, silly woman," said the reptile with a grin. "You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in." Does that explain it, folks? Does that explain?
Trust in me.